If a woman tears down her own house with her own hands, and a man is the one that provides the means for the house to make sure that she has shelter at all, it says that he is allowing her to ruin the inhabitants of that house. Who are the inhabitants of the house? Of course herself, but the children too. The maid servants, everyone that can live their grandma, grandpapa. She is sowing discord or not properly raising children up. She is not properly making her home. She is not properly taking care of the affairs of her household, and so is tearing it down. And if she is also contentious, she makes a man not want to live there, not want to stay home. So he is out in brothels and pubs rather than being at home, because she's always just running her mouth. But the only reason why she even gets to that point is because a man has let it happen. But what needs to be understood is that the curse on Eve is that from now on your desire will be for your husband. Therefore, if at all a woman desires love or her husband and she doesn't get it, listen, time and time again, this here has been repeated by history enough for it to be, never mind a prognosis by a diagnosis. If a woman is unloved, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The Bible says that the earth cannot bear up under an unloved woman who gets married. An unloved woman who gets married, a woman who has no love when she is married, is essentially a cancer. She is a Medusa. Her hair is made of snakes, and when she looks at men, they turn to stone. A woman who is unloved will take it out on everything and everyone. She'll take it out on her maid servants. She will take it out on her children. She will take it out on the grandmother living with everybody in the house. She will take it out on the cutlery, the crockery, the pots and the pans. She will take it out on the animals. And she will gossip everywhere. She'll be a busybody. She will influence other women. She will badmouth her man. She will not speak highly of him in the streets, because after all, he is unloving. And so therefore, encourage other women to also come out with their dirty laundry pertaining their unhappy marriages. And so there'll just be this caucus of crazy ladies that are unhappy in marriages talking about their husbands like they ain't jack. When then you speak about your husbands like they ain't jack, that's when you start disrespecting the living daylights out of them. And so you go home with a spirit of unsubmissiveness. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, Adam, why is your wife not submissive? And why does she not even want to submit? And listen, why doesn't she want to honor you? It is rough to submit under a dude you got no respect for. Rough. Understand, it's a thing. Have you ever had a boss that you don't respect because they're just weak? They keep dropping the ball. They can never come through for you. They're scared of stakeholders. They can never put their foot down. They don't really have it in them to lead. You can't rely on him or her to have your back in the climate of stakeholders in the business. Every time you have an escalation, you can't trust that he or she is going to do anything about it. They're a blob. Like bubble gum underneath a desk in school, that as you're feeding your way around there, you find yourself being like, ew, gross. Somebody arched and split their bubble gum out and put it underneath the desk. Next thing I got Bill Hazy. All they are is that sticky thing underneath your desk that you don't want to touch, but it's there anyway, and in very close proximity to you. That's what a boss that you don't respect achieves. They gather a salary, you don't trust them. You're bigger and better than them, you're stronger. You trust yourself to get things done more than them, but if you go over their heads, you might be called in for insubordination. You wish you could speak to the senior manager yourself. You wish you could speak to the GM yourself. You wish you could go directly to the CEO, because you know you're going to get the message across in a way that's going to be, grabbable, runnable with. But you can't go over your boss's head, so you have to lean on this person that's going to drag their feet, twirl on the spot, kiss a whole bunch of buttock, come back with nothing, hollow note and ash. But listen, you are earning twice my salary. I don't know why you're my boss. So what do you end up doing when you have no respect for your boss, when you can't trust that they're going to come through for you? You stop reporting matters to them. And of course, do they not heinously get discussed, gossiped by subordinates? Hi Lona, sizomcela ukuthi azosisiza ngama-RDS, kodwa he's not gonna get anything done. Ungamnikeza yona i-document yakho ukuthi ayoyisayina, but hayi, sorry Shem, it's gonna come back after 5 weeks. By then, your stakeholder will have already died. Because he's like 99. This person's not going to get anything done. You can give your documents to her and ask her to run them by the CEO, seeing as she is going into a meeting matter. Oh, she's scared. She's not going to want to bother him. Why is she in there, put in that position? What is it, nepotism? What is it, just pushing people along, peddling them like some drugs in like a trafficking operation? You're just peddling an individual up the corporate ladder, but they can't do jack. They can't do nothing for you. And so they frustrate subordinates until everybody gossips. Everybody gathers and sins heinously against God in the canteen to speak about how this boss guy, listen, our whole department is gonna flunk because he can't get a single thing did. You might, in his face or her face, smile like you're on candid camera. You might smile and say, oh, boss and Jenny, hi, morning. You know, like the annoying morning when you walk into the office, morning, like you got a flu. You might, that's all that he or she is good for. Morning, all nasally like it's flu season. You can smile to them and say, morning, afternoon, hey boss. But just, Jay, how much you have to pull your own strings to get stuff done, and how much you have to make like a contortionist artist or some kind of a gymnast to try to go over their head in a way that's not going to be clear you're going over their head. Basically getting your documents signed and then saying, no. I just ran into him in the canteen. He was behind me in the queue, so I was like, how about I just run this fast one past you? You went to the GM above your boss, and then you claim you met them at the canteen, you bumped into them, and so you were like, here's the document. And so therefore he signed it. And to make all different kinds of excuses to explain why you had to go over the head, otherwise you ain't gonna get jacked down, jail, and a bag of chips. Yeah, well, if at all you've ever dealt with a boss you have no respect for because they drag their feet, they don't know their job, you're better than them at the job, but you don't want to go down for insubordination, you will know what it's like to be in a relationship with a man that you don't respect because he is just weak. He is fluffy. He cannot be a man. He is not walking in any spirit of manhood. He can't provide. He cannot put his act together. He can't be resolved. He can't make decisions. He can't. When you are here, you're on the ball. You're on the ball. You're like Ebatung women in black culture. Shem, you know that's a thing. You date a guy at the age of 16 and he's like 20. And when you're still in a stuffy of a school uniform, up and downing in these streets, hopping on them like a kangaroo, you don't see that your boyfriend just don't make no sense. He's driving around the gassy, partying, boozing it up, buying you savan, and you date him from 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, but you see, 18 you matriculate, and when you turn 20, actually he's 24. You matriculate at 18, you then 19, first year, varsity, you're studying BCom accounting. It then dawns on you that, listen, my boyfriend usebenza at Dimension Data. My boyfriend usebenza at YTE. My boyfriend works at YTE as a casual. And I met him when he was 20 years old, when I was still in high school. And I didn't even ask him, what do you do for a career? But he was paying for my booze. He was working some job, and he appears to still be kind of working that same job. But now you're like in first year varsity and you start to crease your forehead and be like, what does my boyfriend do exactly? But he's still paying for your booze. After all, you're a student. So, I mean, if you're a student, you're still poor, you're still broke. But listen, you are on a CA track. You're going to be a chartered accountant one day. But hey, your boyfriend is working at Dimension Data. Call center, pushing pay. He's still boozing it up a storm. You're still drinking it up a storm. It's still fun. Everybody's cute. Everybody is very pretty. And everybody is naive. And then you get to second year. And then you get to third year. And your boyfriend is still working in the call center. He's been able to pay your way, etc. We get it. But where's the ambition, and what are you doing with a guy when you're an academic that's not even trying to push him some business idea? If he doesn't want school, he doesn't have to love school, but he's with a woman that's one day going to be coining it big time. So dude, open us pazanyana. Small to medium enterprise. Let's see if you have it in you to be with a woman with my kind of mind and with my kind of future. Push something. See if you can't like get out of the call center and then get a promotion. Let's see if you can't ask for questions. Let's see if you can't register at varsity part-time. Since I get a man must make a plan, you gotta have money. So you can't go to school full-time like I'm there full-time. Parents are paying for me. Then go part-time. Register part-time, boy. You need some Vits Plus. There's so many options. And this guy is just still like, yeah, but he's paying for your booze in the club. It gets concerning. You're in third year now, right? Okay, now you graduate and he's at your graduation. But you see, then he starts to become a little bit passive-aggressive. He's no longer sweet doting over you the way that he was when you were in school uniform. Now that you've got a degree and he doesn't, and he's still in the call center. You then get your honors and then you work your first job, and now you're starting to make money that is very close to what he's making. And then in just 2 years of your employment in corporate South Africa, you have already excelled above him. What in the world? Now it's clear that, girl, you're dating beyond you, beneath you. And then because you're in love and you've been with him, high school sweetheart, you've been with him since you were in high school, even though he was out of school, you try to build him. You then tell yourself you're going to penal beat him, like, I might teach him. And then you start giving him counsel. Baby, don't you want to go back to school? Don't you want to do this? Oh, you want to start a business? Don't you want to do this? And then you spend your life just striving and striving to try and create ambition in a man that just doesn't have it, and that just won't listen to you as a woman. And then you realize that he's a pipsqueak in comparison to you. He's Stuart Little. He is tiny. It then becomes, then at that juncture, where you stop being the girl that he's buying booze in the club and starts being a man that you literally are trying to make fit like some skinny jeans. You're trying to make him fit. And in so trying to make him fit, what do you start doing? You start emasculating him. I mean, what kind of a man is content with these women being so much stronger? I need a man that is going to be as ambitious as me. I need a man that's this. Yeah, you sound like you're the crazy one now as the woman, right? As the woman, you sound like you're emasculating a dude. And indeed you are. You are now speaking to him like, what am I going to do with you? When he was paying for your booze, it was aha all the way. And you looked up to him. He was like a big fat chunky King Kong. He was a beast. But now that you are all grown up and now making more money than him, while you try everything in your power, listen, I've been there before. You try everything in your power. Everything. To not emasculate. You try not to disrespect. But when a person is moving at the pace of a snail while you are leaping like a kinky clip springer in the wilderness like a gazelle, when you're going from mountain to mountain like a leopard, what in the world? And your man is just taking these little baby steps like a sloth. These tiny little baby steps like a tortoise. These tiny little baby steps like a little dodo. He's so ancient and so endangered or even entirely extinct. You will start to become Mommy. You will yell and you will scream. You will look at your biological clock. He'll be 28, you'll be 24. And you will be a beast in comparison to you. You will, in spite of how small he is in comparison to you, still insist on him marrying you. You will literally insist on him taking out ilobola. Like, hey, wanting to marry a guy that you can't respect, but somehow you figure since you've been together since high school, I mean, you know, you gotta be with him. Yeah, but it's really rough to respect him, and it's really rough not to emasculate him. It's you're trying not to sound condescending, but you just can't help it. Yeah, well, I mean, God made Adam first. He's supposed to lead. He's supposed to run the show. He's supposed to be with the ambition, and he's supposed to provide. He's supposed to build a home, a house, well, that you're gonna make a home out of. And when then he drags his feet in the climate of a very ambitious woman that even though she wants to be the wind beneath his wings, Eve, it is written in God's word when Adam was being, when she was being fashioned, that it is not good for man to be alone, therefore I will do what? I will make a helper suitable for him. She's supposed to help him. She's supposed to be a voice of reason, a counselor. She's supposed to basically be wind beneath his wings. She is supposed to help him redirect his steps. She's supposed to help him wake up and smell the coffee and so therefore start to act. But if Adam is passive-aggressive against Eve's advice, opinions, and ideas, he will be snooty and feel overwhelmed and overcome when he is trying to rule her, as opposed to love her the way that Christ loved the church. A man that wants to rule a woman that is under the curse of the first Adam will hate a woman's opinion. A man that is supposed to love a woman, but rather is in the season of cursedness, since he has yet to give his life to Jesus, will have no other inclination, neither prerogative within his bones, but to lord it over Eve with an iron fist. So essentially, abuse of power is Adam's prerogative before he meets the second Adam. He just wants to run the world, run the show, get his bread buttered on both sides, have his cake and eat it too, get a woman to do whatever it is that he wants her to do, but without listening to her. That's why in the New Testament, the Lord implores men and says through Paul that if you don't listen to your wives, even your prayers will be hindered. So therefore, if men don't listen to women, problems come in, because women were made to be counselors. They were made to be wind beneath wings. They were made to spot things that perhaps are points of suggestion, and upon tabling them, men were supposed to deeply consider them as opposed to despise them. But when you are under the curse of the first Adam, you will want to lord it over her with an iron fist until you think her opinions don't mean jack. So therefore, what we do as women on the come up is typical to the curse. Eve, your desire will be for your husband, no matter what, even when you start to notice that a guy does not make no sense for you. But you will do that which Eve was made to do. Try to be a helper suitable to a man. Baby, don't you want to do this? Don't you want to try that? Baby, but like, okay, let's do this. Let's go be a power couple. You will work really hard to try and build this man, but seeing as he is suffocating under the curse of the first Adam, just as you are suffocating under the curse of the first Eve, honey, this man will reject all of your counsel for no other reason but the fact that a woman is speaking. After all, he must rule you. That's his curse. He will just rule you. He will just want to rule you and not have to take any advice at all. He will imagine that you are not only emasculating him, but you're trying to step on his toes and overwhelm his turf. No respect, neither appreciation for the fact that you get to recommend what ought be the next steps. And he ought, upon you recommending it, deeply consider it, and then maybe perhaps employ it. And if he doesn't employ it, he owes you an explanation as to why he doesn't think it's the course of action, but he does not get to just ignore you. But we keep getting ignored. I was ignored by my ex-boyfriend. I wanted marriage because my desire was for my husband. I wanted to get married. I was gonna accept a proposal of a man that was much too small for me, but I imagined that I could build him. I could make him bigger. I could make him stand because I was trying to fulfill my mission as Eve, but I wasn't in Christ. So I was basically then, upon being frustrated by a guy that would not take my helper suitable offers, upon me offering my services as a helper suitable, I fathomed that, listen, right this minute he's wasting my time, so I'm gonna, lift it up a notch, take it up a notch. Yeah. I said to myself that I'm gonna take it up a notch. Essentially what I'm getting at, if you won't listen to me when I'm speaking to you all sweet and tender, baby, I'm gonna out you disrespect the living delight out of you and tell you how you're just not fit for purpose for a woman like me. You're not man enough. How in the world and heaven do you think I'm gonna feel when I start to make triple my salary, your salary, because now, I've already overwhelmed you. My ex-boyfriend, when we started dating, he was making more money than me. Within a year, I was already making more than him. I was on the ball. He was a sloth. And I was yet to get my degree. I tried to counsel him gently until I just became flat out disrespectful. That's what happens when you tolerate Jezebel, but also when you don't love Jezebel. That's what happens when you tolerate Jezebel, but also when you don't love Jezebel. From now on, Your desire will be for your husband, woman. If it's a judgment, it means that you will love him, even you will want everything and anything to do with him, even when it don't make no sense, nothing at all in these uneasy street. It don't make no sense. But you will want him anyway, even if it disregards God. And he will rule you to a point of ignoring perfectly sound counsel. My ex-boyfriend would take advice that I would give him, insofar as it came, again, later on in the future, from a guy. And it used to break my heart. It was rebellion. It was him saying, I'm gonna rule you, and you don't get to tell me what to do. I wasn't trying to tell him what to do. I was trying to be the wind beneath his wings, but when I got frustrated, I became disrespectful. So, I mean, what happens when Adam does not love Eve? When you want to rule a woman with an iron fist and don't take the advice of the second Adam, who is Jesus Christ, to love women the way that Christ loved the church and to not ignore them, otherwise your prayers will be hindered. You create monsters. You create hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. You create angry black women. You create the angry black woman phenomenon syndrome. You create women that are bitter, and because they're bitter, because of not getting love, they gossip, they bicker, they gather together in caucuses to speak smack about men. Therein lies the birth of feminism. They get emboldened in their little feministic caucuses, and then they feel like it's okay to then go on bulletin boards and speak about men being nothing at all to write home about. The feministic movement is out here getting fangs. It's bubbling like a brook. It's bubbling like an effervescent tablet inside some water like Corenza Sea. It's foaming at the mouth like a drug addiction, and it cannot be stayed. But for the all-consuming power of an almighty God to convict individuals that are in this crazy brawl of crazy, of sin. If the Lord does not rock up and intervene, listen, it'll bubble over like Eno over a cup, and nobody will stop it. So when then you get a bunch of disrespectful women, understand this. I am unloved. I'm not sufficiently loved. I have a home that I stay in. I need you to understand what happens when you don't love a woman. I have a home. I have very comfortable means, if you will. I'm relatively cushy. I mean, you can see in my environment that my skin, I'm healthy, I eat as much as I want. I'm even lamenting that the previous rings that I bought from Temu were not fitting all together properly because I feel like I'm gaining weight. I got blueberries in my stomach, I got strawberries. My cheeks are fresh, and my skin has retinol on it. That's why I look like I don't age. I'm essentially catered to my needs, basic needs, but I don't have love. I have a cat that when it first rocked up all up in these streets, I can't say that it was a stray cat. It was lost because it clearly has a previous owner because it was neutered. And according to the vet, when we first took it to the vet, when it was all up and lost on this property, it has also been vaccinated against something. So it had someone that owned it before that was willing to take care of it and everything. But it strayed, walked away, did a thing, jumped over the street, and found itself here. I thought this cat would find its way back home after 24 hours, but I kept it over one night, and it decided to just keep coming back to me. So I guess it was drawn to the Holy Spirit or whatever. At that stage, it was a kitten. It was not too big. It was very small, very cute, very white, very fluffy. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so quiet. It does not bark like a dog, and it only purrs, and when it needs to pee, it goes in the grass, in the garden, digs a hole. So I'm not ever gonna have to wipe anything down. Essentially, it's what we call low maintenance. When I saw this cat coming back to me, and we also went and we took a photo of it and put it everywhere on some lost cat, call this number, nobody called. So don't nobody come for the cat. It was a perfectly taken care of cat that, however, strayed from where it was at, liked living with me for 24 hours until I guess the owner now gotta be bereaved that it lost a cat. I didn't steal a cat. It just chose me, okay? This cat chose me because the first time it saw me, it even rubbed itself against my leg. So it chose me. It chose me. Okay, I liked it. It was so cute. It was so incredibly cute. So I kept it. I was like, it's low maintenance. I'm cool. I'll take it. Months progressed and life continued to happen the way that my life is happening. I was entirely enamored and besotted with my cat. I was entirely enamored and besotted with my cat. I thought it was the cutest thing under heaven, especially considering it walked up here as a kitten. It was still so small. And even as it grew, it was still so cute. But as the months progressed, I became increasingly frustrated with having an animal because, albeit being low maintenance, unlike a dog, I still have to open for it and close. I still have to keep on changing out its food, its water, and I still have to deal with its whims, its irritations. It also sometimes just dust bathes, just kind of rolls as a white cat in the sand and then comes here looking brown. And I'm like, listen, I live in an environment that is closed up and I don't have much to myself. I can't afford to just keep taking you to the vet or cleaning you or whatever. I don't get to have your coat brown and then roam around all over these streets all up in my space. In the beginning, I used to make a small little cat bed on my bed, and I would allow the cat to roam freely where it wants. Over I think it's been about 3 years now since this cat found its way here. Maybe even 4. I stand corrected. It started out hanging out anytime it wanted on my bed, and I remember the first time the cat came in after it was raining, and its paws were muddy, and the cat put its paws on my bed linen. I was like, oh, you silly cat. And I just wiped it down, and the next day I changed my bed linen and it was nothing. It was water under the bridge. Now, every time I hear a rainstorm, when I see clouds, I get anxious. I get trepidatious. Because if I call the cat, you know cats are aloof. You don't just get to say, hey, cranky, and it'll come inside the house. You have to cajole it. You have to maneuver your way around. You have to be a smooth criminal to get it inside the house. Like, they're not like dogs. Like, you can just be like, hey, Spotty, and the dog just comes in. So every time the clouds start together, I tell the cat, listen, you're not going to like it outside when it's raining, so please just come. And I have to be like all like cajole. I have to be all cajole. And sometimes it'll just be aloof and leave me alone and insist with me being worried about it, on hanging out in the first few 15 minutes of rain. And then next thing, it starts to meow like no man's business, trying to come inside, and I'm like, but I called you in when the clouds were gathering. And then it'll come in all wet, and it'll shake its fur, and it'll get on where it is that it sleeps with those paws that are muddy now, and those paws of its that are muddy now. And I would then feel irritated with that. I then feel, while I love my cat, I still do. Every so often I look at it, I'm like, it's so cute. I, however, feel burdened by it because I don't have love. In the beginning, I had capacity to really adore it and dote over it. But as time progressed and life slapped me upside the head, I realized I've got too many life conditions to own something I must care for and be consistent with. And so therefore, I went from basically having a cat bed on my bed, and I moved the cat bed to a chair over there, and I put pillows and everything to make it nice and comfortable. And the cat's not allowed on my bed because I don't want to have to change my bed linen every 3 days. I also don't want to deal with cat fur all over the grill. If it has dust bathed, let it hang out in a bed where it is that I can just grab that stuff and put it in the washing machine the next day. But you don't get to dust bathe and then hang on my bed, and I'll have to change like the whole hall, just taking out bed linen and whatnot, and when the cat then climbs on my bed, I scream, I yell, I'm, no, get off my bed. It's like a whole struggle. It's a tug of war. And I also don't have like a cat flap where the cat can easily come and go. So when I'm sleeping and the cat wants to go outside, it literally comes in my ear and starts to kind of hover around my face to let me know that, listen, I want to get out. And I feel irritated that it's interrupting my sleep. And sleep is precious to me, especially considering I dream horribly. So I need to sleep all throughout those hours to get all my 8 hours in, and then I will deal with the spiritual war in the morning. So if I wake up, if I get my sleep broken in the middle, it's like I have to now labor on the fact that, listen, these witches are at it again. So I don't like interruptions of sleep. So every so often, I strategically lock the cat in the house so I can sleep a full night, and it sleep in the house. I put food in the house, and I let it sleep. It tends to, there's plenty of cushy spots in the house that it can chill on, right? So I've got water and everything for it in the house. I make sure that the cat is safe, but just the fact that I have to consider it, and sometimes I would, upon being irritated and being really spiritually afflicted, like as in really spiritually afflicted, I'd be like, I don't even know why I have a cat. Except when this cat arrived here the first time, I was like, wow, this cat is so cute, I like it. I was enamored and fascinated with my cat, and now I still like it, but I like it a lot less on days when I'm especially spiritually abused. When I've got so much spiritual war that I am writhing through, I can't stand my cat, and I end up feeling really guilty for yelling and screaming at it, because I feel like, listen, I am too bereft, too beleaguered, and too afflicted to have an animal. You're too much. But while I feel like the cat is too much, I would never throw it out on the street. I would never leave it out on a limb. I would never lock it outside. I would never let it just keep meowing outside and not let it in. I would never get to a point of so much neglect or abuse where it is that I would ignore my cat meowing outside and say, I'm not letting you in because I just let you out. I would never let it endure the rain. When it starts to rain, when the cat is out there, even though I am like, but why do I even have a cat? I stand up and I go outside and I'm like, I try to call it. Where are you? Hey, cran cat, come inside. And sometimes it's still aloof, it ignores me. And then I have to like just stand there. And then when the rain gets super hard, sometimes I go and I basically just grab it and bring it inside. And you know that cats don't want to be touched a lot of times, especially when they are aloof towards. So if you touch it, it'll be like, ah, and give you grief. But then for me, it's like, but this is in your best interests. And also, when a cat has determined to go outside and you want to keep it in, it won't leave you alone. It'll have zoomies, it'll scratch at the door, it'll do this, so you can't just ignore it. So therefore sometimes, because the cat has become nice and brave, it used to be very scared of the rain before, now it knows that rain is not harmful because it has a comfortable home to live in. So sometimes when it's like drizzling, even though I know it's going to be very uncomfortable within mere moments, it insists on going outside even though, listen, it's drizzling and you can hear the pellets of rain on the roof, that it's drizzling. It knows what rain sounds like. It's smart enough to figure all that stuff out, and yet it'll want to go outside. And I will feel irritated that you just want to go outside so you can be like a little child wanting to play in the rain, but very soon you'll be back in because you can't just stay in the rain. Why are you trying to go outside, but you can't ignore it when it wants to go out, because it's going to irritate you and scratch at the door and jump from spot to spot to spot and evidence to you that you're not going to hold me hostage. There are independent animals that also want their way, They're like Frank Sinatra. You don't get to tell a cat jack, right? If you have a cat, you would know that's a thing. You don't tell a cat nothing. So you have to open when it wants to go. And so I open only to open again for it to come back in just 5 minutes. So it just wanted to catch some air, but then it was too much air, and now it's scratching at the door again, meowing like a baby, and I have to open for it. And this has been my life with this cat for the past 4 years, and on better days, I'm happy to just keep on up and down like a yo-yo, opening and closing for a cat, and changing out its linen, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But when I'm really going through it, I often say under my breath, but why do I even have a cat? Well, yo, that's an animal. And largely, I would like to imagine that it doesn't realize that I'm passive-aggressive with it. Largely, yeah. Also, another thing about cats, right? They groom a lot. They lick their bodies. In the beginning, I had no qualms with it. I didn't care. Now, I can't stand the sound of my cat licking itself to a point where when it starts to grow, I feel grossed out by it. Listen, I feel disgusted because what it's licking, it's cleaning itself. So after it like dust bathes, it's like it's licking its dust off all that sand soil. I'm thinking like a human being. Like, it's so gross. It's like falling on the ground and landing in some poop and then deciding to lick it off. I find it disgusting. I find it disgusting. And you know how cats will also lick themselves in between their legs, and I'm like, ew, that's your nether regions. It's your genitalia. Gross. It's a girl. It's an animal. That's what they do. And that's one of their behaviors. I never used to have qualms with that. I kid you not. Now I find it so disgusting that I have to cover the cat so I don't have to see it grooming its body. And I hate the sound of it so much that I have to either turn on a fan so I don't have to hear the licking, or something on YouTube. Put earphones in my ear the whole duration of time when it's grooming its body. I never used to have issues with it, and now I do. I'm looking at this cat like it's a human being. Don't lick. Ew. Why would you lick your own body? What the heck? It's a cat. And chances are, if my life had been maintained healthy, I wouldn't have qualms with a cat's grooming. Now I've got this idea at the top of my mind that I will never ever get a cat again. No, never mind a cat, but just a pet at all. I would never get a dog. Even though there was a time when I used to have dogs. I'm a little one when I was a child. I can't fathom an animal now, because cats are some of the most carefree animals that will give you peace. And if at all I can't own a cat, if in the season I get what then would have been a dog? Well, I've been my group. That would have been a lot more maintenance. So essentially, I just feel like I can't own an animal. I told you all that story with my cat and the issues I'm having with it now. My cat is what's the word that I'm looking for? An easygoing animal, like proper no issues. I'm the one here with the trauma, the PTSD, and the lack of love. I'm the one here that's just striving through too much in life. To have something I'm taking care of. Why do you think occult practitioners, one of their key strategies is to put babies in women's stomachs? They want to control you and to embed you and to cause you a great deal of sorrow through children. But you see, the love of children is hinged, literally it is dependent upon how loved you are by the world, and how loved you are in particular by your world. Which is why it is entirely erroneous and a grand folly, women. This is why it is erroneous and a grand folly, women, to think that you can not only do without men, but bring children into this world without responsible fathers. Which is why it's irresponsible to think that you can just merely get a sperm donor. Which is why it is irresponsible to think that now that you are 40 or over 35 and there appears to be no husband coming, that you can just quickly have a baby with any boyfriend that you will meet on the street that will impregnate you and so therefore be a sperm donor and enable you to satiate your desire for children, enable you to satiate your desire for motherhood. And even if he doesn't pay child maintenance, whatever, all you wanted was a child. You are naive to think that you're going to be okay. I told you after an hour and a half this phone would be done exporting. You are naive to think that you can have a baby without having sufficient love around you and think that you're going to be maintained with a healthy relationship with that child. You are naive. The cat, I often ask God, why did you let the cat come into my life when I would later on become so essentially passive aggressive against it, that I would feel so burdened by it? You knew those years ago when this cat came here all cute as a kitten that it would at some point in the future function as a snake. The Lord allowed it in order to help me see what in the world it is that these men do who are in the occult to women, through insisting that you have a baby first, then I'll let you go. Have a child first, then I'll let you go. Especially considering, Karabo, you are broody. You've been broody since 22. Ever since you were 22 years old, you've wanted to have a child. Well, just have one. Just have one. Because I remember there was this one woman when I did that, I told her when I was 35 years old. I was like, I want children. And I'm worried now that I'm 35, and this is apparently the age where women get geriatric wombs. I am concerned that I very potentially might not be able to have children and on time. And she was like, why don't you just have one? I literally could not believe that she asked me that, given that she knew that I was a Christian. I was like, have one? Honey, I don't have a husband. Like, I don't have family. I have nothing. Like, it don't make no sense. Like, listen, this woman was literally counseling me that just have a child, everybody will take care of that kid. Everybody will have that kid's back. And listen, it's a thing in the black community that children get fat. Children grow up, they get fat. Children run and they are healthy. They run and they're healthy and they appear okay, but they are not mentally healthy and they're also not loved. They're not loved, even though they're taken care of. People make sure they don't die largely. People make sure that when their stomachs start to grumble, somebody is there with some porridge. You will not be starved. You will have more food than you can eat. As a black child growing up, you will not be emaciated, at least if you're not growing up in a poverty-stricken family. You will have enough food to eat. You will always have God, you will always have whatever, but my goodness, love, actual attention, like compassion, concern, concentration on you, questions. Are you well? Are you okay? Hugs, kisses. After you getting out of the state of being a baby, you will get hugs and you will get kisses when you're still like 2 or 1 or 3. But after a certain age, you stop getting hugged. You stop getting kissed. Once you turn like 7, 8, once you become like a preschooler or even a prepubescent, you stop getting the hugs and the kisses, because hugs and kisses in the black community are reserved for newborn babies. They're the ones that everybody's always squeezing the cheeks off. Ooh, gaga, oh, nana, you're so cute. But after that, listen, you're on your own. And now, manje, seeing as that time, that age is so young, so too young for you to remember. Ooh, gaga, ooh, nana, and everybody out there like, listen, if you have no memory of all that kind of attention, what in the world? What kind of an adult are you going to be? What kind of an adult are you going to be? What kind of an adult are you going to be when you think that you've never been loved, you've never been kissed? I thoroughly still to this day feel like as a baby, I was probably just ignored. I feel like as a baby, nobody ever squeezed my cheek and said, oh, so cute, carried me and sang me to la na na na. You know how babies are always just being harassed in the cheek area? Always just being kissed by random mouths. The way their cheeks are so soft and cushy to land on, they're thoroughly massaging, so it's easy for you to just kind of like put your lips on there, just keep on kissing baby's cheeks. However, I've got a warped view of my babyhood, because I don't even think that I was ever kissed. And if I was somebody out there massaging their lips with my cheeks as a baby, the way that you can't help but do that with babies, because I just never received it past a certain age. I don't even remember ever being really loved as a child. I don't. But I'm pretty sure that somebody squeezed my cheeks and somebody kept on kissing my cheeks, mushing them with all of their saliva when I was still a baby, but I had, of course, no memory of it. So I have no memory of love. That's how it is in the black community. And then forget about them when they turn 7 or 8, and then tell them to walk in downtown Johannesburg by themselves, coming from school, going to school because you're too lazy or you work too far. Okay? Parents in the black community, because you work in Pretoria, it's okay for your son or your daughter to travel go Brie by herself. After all, Pretoria is far, and girl, you go to the school, and I'm not trying to change schools, and while it's a healthy thing not to keep on changing children's schools, you need to make arrangements for your child's safety somewhere along the way. Even if you change jobs and you end up working on the other side of the world, your children's safety still needs to be paramount. You need to arrange for them to be okay as to how they travel to school. If you can't pick them up anymore, then you need to arrange for somebody else to pick them. Yes, there are responsible parents in the black community. There are loving parents in the black community. There are hugging moms and hugging dads and people who keep basically having each other's backs. My ex-boyfriend's family was like that. I don't even know why he's now such a monster today, because he had the right foundation. But largely, in the black community, and I know that that's a thing because I had friends, right? I'm a black woman having grown up amidst black people. I had friends. Siblings never used to hug each other, hold hands, like have each other's backs, call each other all the day long, how you doing? Moms and dads did not kiss their children when they came back from school, coming into their vehicles. Like, none of that. Like, just a very strict tone to the way that children are spoken to, but no love. And if at all you are giving children strictness with no love, that's just a disciplinarian without love. That's a taskmaster. That's your boss. That's not your dad or your mom. It's your boss. It's your slave master. I'm strict, do this, do that. It's Mrs. Trenchbull over Matilda. And if at all your mom is Mrs. Trenchbull, she's always yelling at you, but she doesn't hug you. What the heck, you're gonna be scared of her, sure. But you will not see a loving figure in that. You will not see a place of safety, of solace in that space. You will only see Hlongwane, a place where you sleep at night. So let me then go back to children. Kids, okay? When women are not loved, while they might have a maternal instinct because it is given us by God from a certain age, very shortly after our first period, just mere years after our first period, we start to have a yearning for children. I've always thought that kids were cute, right? When I was a child in primary school, standard 3, that would be grade 5. When I was a child in primary school, standard 3, that would be grade 5. I used to attend this aftercare where it is that you go after school and your parents pick you up from there, but it's a creche. But I was in primary school. There were a few primary school children that went to an aftercare at a creche where it is that because our parents knocked off at like 6, 7, no, at like 5, 4, 5 in the evening, and could only pick us up at like 6, 7. We therefore would spend the afternoon at that aftercare instead of at school, because at the aftercare we got fed and whatnot, you know, the whole night. It's funny because the aftercare was next door to my house. My mother didn't trust me with the house keys because I'd lost them a couple of times, so I used to attend an aftercare as opposed to go home. And I did not go home when my mom came home. I went home when my older sister, who was in high school, came home. But in this aftercare, it was a creche and there were babies there. And as little girls in primary school and little boys in primary school, my friends and I, we used to love playing with the babies because they were so cute, they were so adorable. And we would help the teachers basically just kind of, you know, keep them in a bunch. So I've always had a fascination with babies. I've always thought they were very cute, very adorable. I would kiss them and I would hold them, even though, you know, when an 11-year-old or 10-year-old is holding a baby, they just look like they're carrying such a load. But yeah, we used to always just carry these babies and just play with them, and what have you. So I've always thought kids were cute. I was never that young child that hates babies. I always thought they were cute. But in spite of my belief of all of their cutosity, shall I call it cutosity? Despite my belief of all of their cutosity, I nonetheless did not want one. Like, no, it was always a taboo. Like, yeah, ain't nobody out here be trying to be pregnant at like 13, 15, or 16. I did not fathom myself a mother. I did not imagine that I wanted to be a mother, even though as a little girl I wanted the whole Barbie doll, Ken doll house, the whole family thing with the picket fence. It was always just something that I wanted, but I never had like a maternal desire, like just a strong desire to have like a whole bunch of children, type establishment thing. But then I turned, I think like maybe like 19, right? And like from like maybe 18 years old to 19 years old, I started my first period when I was first day of high school was my first day on my period. Like, it was the worst. Like, do not ruin my day. Like, I'm trying to impress here, okay? Yeah, I was 13 years old going on 14. That was when I started my period. And 5 years later, I had my first inkling of a maternal instinct. I was 5 or 6. I wanted 7 children. It was just this weird number that I kind of pulled out of a hat, like a rabbit with a magician. Like 7. I just wanted 7 kids. And this happened when I was like 19. Right? When I was around 18, 19 years old, I had my first inkling of a maternal instinct, knowing that I want children. But it would become especially gnarly, like a knocking, beastly, like person in the night that is stuck out in the rain, like just knocking really hard. It started to knock really hard on my door, this maternal desire, if you will, when I was 22. You know, I really don't want to be distracted doing this thing. I feel like I can do it. I want to focus on what I'm doing right now because it's not even an urgent. It's this thing that I want to do. I just want to focus because this phone it's challenging me because of how much it glitches every so often, so I don't want to be distracted. It started to knock all up in my grill when I was 22 years old, when I dated the first guy that I thought could actually be my husband. All the other guys that I dated, okay, there was only one guy that I dated, my first love, that maybe I could have thought of in that fashion, but I was so young when I dated him. I was 16 turning 17, so I mean, I didn't see a husband in that, just what I thought to be a boyfriend that would not linger on. But after him, nobody else came that I could feasibly look at and be like, this could be my husband, right? After my first love, the guy who broke my virginity, I did not see anybody working up out of like a bat out of hell that could potentially fit this role until I was 22. And I met the guy that I would then date for like 5 years, and he was the first person after that other guy that I could feasibly see, like I said, being my husband. And when I started dating this guy at the age of 22, then that maternal instinct that was ever so slight, very slight, just became this like knocking monster at the door. And I was like, whoa, I want kids. And I started being fascinated with like baby magazines, baby pictures. When we were dating, I would like, there was this application where it is that you could feed your photo, feed his photo, and then out pops like what your baby would look like. I would keep doing stuff like that, and I wanted to get married so that we could stop making babies already, etc. So frankly, what I'm trying to get at is that at the age of 22 was when the maternal instinct became especially gnarly, because again, it's gnarly when you're not able to meet it, to fulfill it. Okay, yeah, that happened the way that it did, and so I wanted, like I said, I wanted a child. So the maternal instinct in a woman, even though you start out just kind of maybe even apathetic towards children, not wanting them at all, or maybe you are a little girl that thinks babies are cute, but no, you're not trying to have one of your own. Somewhere along the way, a couple of years down the line from your period, God will breathe it into you the way that he breathed into Adam, and then he became a living soul. He will breathe it into you, and you will now have a longing to, you will then have a longing to be a mother, even though before then you just didn't care for children. I often used to ask myself when I was a child, like especially when I was a teenager, I would ask myself, how in the world do women have more than one child? Because pregnancy just seemed so onerous. It just seemed like such a laborious process. It was so taxing that I was like, how do women have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 babies? How are they pregnant so many times? This thing just seems like it's just so taxing on the body. And the reason why I asked this question when I was a teenager was because my mother had my baby sister when I was 17 and I saw my mom's pregnancy. I saw her before and of course during, and I was like, this thing is so taxing. It's just, she became so fat, so big, and my mother never used to have any stretch marks on all over her body. Like throughout her pregnancy with me and my older sister, her body was just like it bounced back, clearly, because I of course I didn't see her because I was the last born in that instance, but nonetheless I knew my mom when she was without clothes. So what my baby sister did in my mom's body, given that she was already older and had eaten all that McDonald's and age had caught up, because she had my little sister when she was like 43 or 44 or whatever, she got these stretch marks and she got chubaba on her face. She got cloasma, right? Melasma, cloasma, whatever you want to call it. She never had that with me or my older sister. Yeah, according to her, she had to go and see a dermatologist for all of that chubaba business after my baby sister was born. But basically she just did not carry very beautifully, like even in the slightest, like not at all. My mother's pregnancy made her something different. She just looked beastly, monstrous, and my mother is quite a beautiful woman. Throughout the pregnancy with my baby sister, it was hard to see her glory. It was absolutely hard to see her glory. And when I saw the pregnancy, I was like, how do people have like more than one when pregnancy does this to you? Like the stretch marks on my mom's stomach were so black. Today you can't even see them, but they were so black that I was like, what in the world? Like, what is going on over here? Yeah. I couldn't fathom how women could have 5 children, 6, but I got to the age of 19, a mere 2 years later. And I was like, listen, like I said, a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. I pulled out the number 7. I was like, I want 7 kids. I didn't care that my mother had just a heinous pregnancy with my baby sister. I didn't care that I would get those black stretch marks on my stomach. I didn't care that I would also maybe get the chubaba 7 times over. I didn't care that, yeah, what I'm trying to get at is that when a maternal instinct is on your door, when a maternal instinct is knocking on your door, you will all of a random Sunday afternoon not even care that you're going to lose your figure, that you're going to get stretch marks in places you never thought could ever get stretch marks, like your toe, that you're going to get a different face altogether, that your nose going to look like it has a different genetic material. The way it gets so big, you just don't care. Because to you, the joy of motherhood or the anticipation of it trumps what pregnancy could do to your body. And I got to that place at the tiny age of 19. And I mean, that is like the most vain time of a young woman's life. You're so young, you're so beautiful, that you don't want anything to crack you up. But I was like, listen, I'm doing this 7 times. And then I turned 22 and met a guy that I thought could feasibly be my husband, and it just went through the roof. God is the one that does that, right? He's the one that, even though you're on your period, you don't yet have a maternal desire, but very shortly after you start your first period, he then prepares you for mother by giving you a desire for children. When then people go out of their way to rob you of that fulfilled desire, whatever, they're evil, they're wicked. But when people use that desire that God breathes into you, the way that he breathed into Adam and then he became a living soul, when people use it to be an affront to God, to afflict women, and to make sure that God's beautiful institution of marriage and his love of family gets maligned by the lack of love of children and of women, you are a bane to God's eternal existence. You are the scorn of heaven. You are the maligner of all things wonderful and fantastic. And the Lord is not going to basically just kind of sit back folding his hands like a newspaper and do absolutely nothing. The Lord is going to afflict those who afflict his institutions that are precious and beautiful. If you have no respect nor regard for the fact that it is an emotional impetus that is awarded a woman to desire a woman, not a woman, but to desire children. If you don't have any respect that emotional impetus has been given these women by God in order for them to be doting mothers over babies that they might nurture over them and feel a big sense of protection. If you make a decision to use that in order to be an affront to God by abusing women's nurturing, mothering thing that they do, so you could get to women in the spirit of misogyny and in you abusing power, what in the world? Like, listen, you are the worst nightmare that heaven could ever gaze at. You cannot use a woman's maternal instinct and a woman's desire for children against God, to sin against him in women. You're not going to be okay on that day. Listen, you're not going to live. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Like I said the other day at the end of my video, you're not going to make it. Using that accent, that British accent, you're not going to make it. You don't get to use the gumption inside women that God gives to rear children against, never mind women, but God, in so creating societies, in so creating a human race that is healthy in mind and in heart and in soul. If women are not loved, the ramifications fall upon children. It is inevitable, because nobody here is a robot. Nobody here is unperturbed by elements. Nobody here is living in a vacuum with all things equal. People respond to external stimuli, and it then influences their future decisions. and their behavior. So therefore, a woman can literally end up being the bane of her children's existence because she's unloved by her husband or is abused by society. She can end up struggling to be a mom that makes any kind of sense. No one operates in a vacuum. Emotions have power to change a person's behavior. And if a woman is always bereft, she will struggle to be an available mother. And if at all she's not an available mother, she will be the scorn of her daughter because she might even be one of those narcissistic moms that is competing with her child. Or she might be one of those overbearing moms that thinks that her son is her husband and so hates every daughter-in-law prospect. She will be a nasty little gnarly monster of an athlete's foot infection that will thoroughly make it impossible for societies to thrive because, listen, society commences from the family. And if the family is healthy, then society is healthy. If thoughts in the family are healthy, then society is healthy. If kids are loved, then society is healthy. And if kids across the board on a multiplier are healthy, then they're not going to influence each other trash even in school because they come from healthy families. So if your primary prerogative is to just break up the nuclear family, if your primary prerogative is to undermine the institution of marriage, and if your primary prerogative is to put babies in women's stomachs so you can handle women, so that women can be subdued and put in their place because of the fact that they'll be too concerned about children. Whew, yes, like it would. Listen, God made Adam first to create families on earth. You don't get to mess with how families operate and how they can love God and not be lambasted by a holy God ultimately. Some of these people who work in the occult, like, listen, I often wonder when they arrive in eternity, just the blows, like the interwoven judgments that slap them and the reason why they're enduring what they're enduring, they suddenly are aware of it.